Most likely, some of these people who express fears about being around transgender people have probably been around transgender people and have shared spaces with transgender people. They just might not have known it.
It was somebody from Washington, D.C. who had never spoken to me. Had to Google who she was, as I got this. And I was like, cool, so this is disingenuous, and this is arbitrary, and this is not on performance. This is across-the-board termination.
The thing that has to happen first, before we take any policy initiatives, is we have to change hearts and minds, and we have to basically uncover the history, a history that's been lost and obscured. Just the idea that Jim Crow was regional is basically what most people think, and it wasn't.
Those were some of the many voices from interviews here on the Metro on WDET. Welcome back. I'm Robin Vincent. Michigan voters now have another candidate to consider for the U.S. Senate race to replace Gary Peters. Democratic U.S. Representative Haley Stevens recently entered the fray. Stevens worked on the Obama and Hillary Clinton campaigns and was part of the Obama task force that saved the auto industry from bankruptcy. She joins two other Democrats vying for the seat so far. Dr. Abdul El-Sayed, the former director of Wayne County's Department of Health, Human and Veterans Services, and State Senator Mallory McMorrow. Former U.S. Representative Mike Rogers is the only Republican in the race so far. Representative Stevens joins us now. Congresswoman, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. Great to be here.
And also, just a heads up, we have invited the Republican Senate candidate, Mike Rogers, onto the show. We're still waiting to hear back from his team. Now, Representative Stevens, you've been sitting in the U.S. House since 2019, and we know this is often the path that U.S. senators from Michigan take. They begin in the House, as you have. But beyond that trajectory, why are you running for the U.S. Senate?
Well, thank you so much. And let me just say that going back to my time working in the Obama administration as the chief of staff on the U.S. Auto Rescue, which was the initiative responsible for preventing General Motors and Chrysler from going belly up and saved 200,000 Michigan jobs. I was the one who stayed late at work and told the operators at the Treasury and at the White House to wire the calls for Michiganders straight to my desk. And talking to people during that unbelievable moment of uncertainty, people who were breaking down on the phone with me, scared about losing their jobs, their small business, everything they had ever worked for, honestly reminds me of the moment we are in now with the Trump-Musk chaos agenda. And my life has been defined by putting up my hand for Michigan in moments of crisis or uncertainty and stepping up and doing something about it. And that's why I'm putting my hand up as a 4-term lawmaker who's gotten a thing or two done in the United States Congress. I'm really pleased to have played a lead role in passing the CHIPS and Science Act and addressing some of the disruptions to our supply chain during the COVID-19 pandemic and championing STEM education initiatives. And what we're seeing from Trump and Musk with these reckless shoot by the hip, change by the minute tariffs, we just got another tariff announcement yesterday, that's leading to a whole host of job insecurity right now. People are worried if their small business is going to make it. People are only seeing costs go up, if it's at the grocery store or with the bigger ticket item like housing.
Congresswoman, if I may jump in, just because we have a limited amount of time here, could you talk more about what your plan is to combat Trump and Musk?
Yeah, so in the first 30 days of the Trump-Musk administration, I introduced legislation to stop unelected billionaires from getting access to private taxpayer information. I introduced this bill alongside House leadership, and droves of my colleagues have signed on to that legislation that is drawing down from my time serving in the Obama administration. And I want to pass that type of legislation to put guardrails up in the United States Senate.
One thing we have to acknowledge, though, is that Democrats right now are historically unpopular. They've pushed away a lot of voters in recent years, and now it's a party that some longtime liberals say they don't recognize. So in order to have the kind of power that you're talking about, you do need to bring more Americans back into the fold. How do you do that?
Well, I'm really excited to talk to you about why I'm running for U.S. Senate, to meet the needs of Michiganders, to earn their votes, to let them know I want to be their champion in the United States Senate. I am running to be Michigan's champion in the United States Senate and do what I've always done, which is get things done for Michiganders.
You've been talking about the economic chaos wrought by President Trump and his tariffs, and I see you're vowing to fight them. Now, you're part of the centrist faction of the Democratic Party, and critics are pointing at centrists, saying they've been too soft on Trump. You've backed Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. In March, he caved in supporting the Republican funding bill to avert a government shutdown. I realize you voted against the bill along with most Democrats in the House. But overall, there is a lot of division in the Democratic Party. How do you plan to bridge that divide?
Well, look, as long as we can stay united while dealing with cuts to Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, this is a really serious moment. I am truly hearing from Michiganders right and left who are worried about that Social Security check. I have heard, for example, from a paralyzed veteran who had to ask me if he was going to get his benefit check. This is serious. This is a real attack on everyday Michiganders, and we can't allow it to go forward. And we're seeing the Trump agenda try and make its way through the Congress. And as long as we're staying united, we can let people know that we have their back.
But again, there is this question of unity. And, there's something else. The Democratic Party is also struggling with its identity. Some say the party should stray from social issues and focus on material ones like healthcare and jobs. Longtime Democratic strategist Paul Begala recently told NPR that Democrats need to change.
I think we just got to focus on folks whose names are stitched above the pocket of their shirt, not those whose pronouns are typed at the bottom of their emails.
Do you think Democrats need to focus less on social and cultural issues and more on economic ones?
Well, look, I'll leave the punditry, I guess, to the pundits. But why I do this work is to get things done for Michiganders. And look, we need to have investment in manufacturing jobs and job training. That goes back to our schools, which is why I'm a member of the Education and Labor Committee, who I'm working very hard in the Congress to make sure that we have equal funding all across our great public schools. My dad was a public school teacher. And look, I'm running for U.S. Senate because this moment in Michigan reminds me of what I saw when I was serving as Chief of Staff on the U.S. Auto Rescue. There's too much uncertainty going on in people's lives. We do have to push back. We have to stop the Trump-Musk chaos agenda. We've got to bring back certainty, respect, dignity of work, frankly, that is so very important, and dignity to all people. That's how I feel.
This is the Metro on WDET. I'm Robin Vincent. We're talking about the race for U.S. Senate in Michigan to replace Gary Peters' open seat next year. Our guest is Democratic Congresswoman Haley Stevens. She recently entered the race. Congresswoman, I do want to talk a little bit more about the work that you did on the task force in the Obama administration that saved the U.S. auto industry from bankruptcy. Economists have said that move was crucial to stopping the country from going into a recession. Over the years, the federal government has given American auto companies billions of dollars in the name of saving jobs and the economy and keeping cars affordable. But today, cars are no longer affordable. The average cost of a car is now roughly $47,000. That means buying a new car is out of reach for most. We got to talk about this here in the Motor City. What role should the federal government have in bringing those costs down?
Well, and let's be clear, when we were in the middle of the auto rescue period, the country was in a great recession. And the state of Michigan had double-digit unemployment, and it wasn't for sale signs in front of people's homes. It was foreclosures. And in fact, Robin, my own father was one of the people who had a subprime mortgage and almost lost his home, and did go through the Obama home ownership retention program, was able to keep his home, but ultimately had to short sell it. And my dad was a Detroit public school teacher for the last 15 years of his career. And what happened to him was wrong. And frankly, what's happening to everyday Michiganders right now is wholly unfair. We do need affordability. And I very much value the deep relationship I have with the United Auto Workers Union, the work that I did with them during the auto rescue, and the work that I do with them now as a member of Congress, who is protecting the right to organize, supporting that legislation, introducing legislation as I have each term in the Congress to support union jobs, which give people benefits and allow them to retire with dignity. I'm a Democrat who is proud to talk about a 21st century labor movement. So, yes, in part, why I am running for U.S. Senate is because the costs are too darn high. They need to be lowered, and it needs to be addressed. And it will be addressed by proven economic policy that allows for public-private partnerships, not what Donald Trump is proposing with these erratic tariffs and removing the CHIPS and Science Act.
Representative Stevens, I want to shift gears here for a moment to talk about the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, or AIPAC, which has raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for you. I understand you've said that Israel has a right to defend itself, but human rights organizations say it has gone far beyond defending itself in its war in Gaza. Over 50,000 people in Gaza have been killed. The United Nations says most of those fatalities are women and children. What do you say to that?
Well, let me be really clear, Robin, where I am on this issue. I want this war to end. I want the remaining hostages, 59 of them, one American, to be returned home to their families. I want to see an enduring ceasefire that will allow for true peace for people in Gaza, people in Israel, and of course, Israel is our strong and close ally in the Middle East. But we need to see enduring peace, and I think we can all agree to that.
But the question is, how do we get to that enduring peace? Do you think America should stop giving Israel money for its military operations right now in Gaza?
No, I do not. And I believe that Hamas needs to surrender. The hostages need to come home, and we need to see enduring peace. And look, I haven't agreed with every action of Mr. Netanyahu throughout this war. And I believe that Hamas is a rogue terrorist organization wreaking havoc on all people in the region.
Before we let you go, in the U.S. House, you've mentioned, Representative Stevens, how you recently sponsored legislation to block Elon Musk from accessing Americans' personal information. We know Musk is highly unpopular. He's an unelected billionaire making decisions that are having profound impacts on Americans. I want to give you one more opportunity here to really distill for us what you plan to do to limit his reach.
Well, look, right now we've got what's called the discharge petition going through the House of Representatives to push that legislation to the House floor. My colleague, Congresswoman Hillary Scholten, has also introduced legislation that I am in support of to stop Musk and to ensure that there's full transparency with government actors. And I am doing exactly what a member of Congress should do in this moment. I do know how to get things done. I'm proud to say I've passed bipartisan legislation in the past, but in this moment, we have to, and I am doing this, using my vote as a sitting member of Congress on behalf of the incredible people of Michigan's 11th district. I'm using my vote and my voice accordingly, and I'm not compromising at the expense of values here that are frankly on the line, and that's values around personal freedoms as well as our democracy.
U.S. Representative Haley Stevens. She's running for Michigan's open U.S. Senate seat. Thank you so much for joining us on the Metro.
Thank you.
From the WDET newsroom, President Donald Trump plans to hold a rally in Macomb County next week to mark his first 100 days back in office. The White House says he'll visit the Selfridge Air National Guard Base on Tuesday. Trump won Macomb all 3 times he ran for president. He took 56% of the vote there last year. The city of Detroit is intentionally burning brush and weeds to manage the landscapes of several parks, including Palmer Park. That could explain the smoke that you might be seeing in the area. In Lansing, the state house voted to toughen penalties for people selling opioids, including fentanyl. The bills would create minimum prison sentences for violating the law. Supporters say it's necessary to fight Michigan's opioid crisis. Coming up in the next hour, Jason Moran is an artist playing at this year's Jazz Fest. We'll hear about his work and how he came to be an acclaimed pianist. Stay right there. This is The Metro, and this is WDET-FM, Detroit Public Radio, your connection to news, music, and conversation.